Okay, so this is, I think, going to be round 3 or 4 on this on these 14mm bolts. What I got this time is a 3/8 inch drive breaker bar with a 6-point 14mm socket. So this is I think it's an 18-inch long breaker bar, and it looks like there's just enough room to get it between this line and the bolt. And just want to make sure that I got it, because I'm working under the car in the driveway on the dirt. You gotta sometimes do crazy things just to get it positioned just right. So what I'm doing now is rotating the socket. If I rotate it by 90 degrees, I'll get a different... This is one of the advantages of a 12-point socket, obviously, is you can get it to fit on in more angles. I may have to go with a 12-point socket. Okay, that at least... Yeah, but there's nothing, there's no grab there. Boy, this is hard. What if I try from the opposite angle? Oh, boy. Okay. I might have to jack this car up a little higher in order to get it loose. So if I had the car up higher, this would be easy. So that might be the best advice, is don't try to do this job 30 centimeters off the ground, unless you just like pain and suffering. Okay. So maybe if I pull down now, I can get this to break loose. Oh boy. Oh boy, that is on tight. Yeah. Not easy. Not easy. I just don't have enough strength in my left arm to do that. Oh boy. Really difficult. Definitely seems like it would work. Maybe I should jack the car up on the other side. That would give me a lot more clearance. I might have to do that to get this job done. Oh boy. Well, I decided to try making use of my engineer's hammer, which I always say is, if you're using a hammer to try to fix a car, it's generally a pretty unusual circumstance, but with a breaker bar, and the engineer's hammer. Ah, yeah. Okay. Whew. That is now, those bolts are now, I can feel them turning. So that is really good. I don't know if I can turn them by hand yet or not. I mean, without hitting it with the hammer, but I'm gonna try. Oh yeah, yep. These are definitely now turning. By hand, which is great. It took me quite a while to get to this point. But I think that I can now use the breaker bar, yeah, and just barely turn them. So, you know, once you get them loose with the breaker bar, then you might not need the breaker bar anymore. You can use a regular wrench. Such as this little 14 millimeter that I first started out trying to use. That was way too small. Not enough leverage. Yep. These are now loose. They got a lot of torque on them, that's for sure. So those will come out, and since I've already loosened the front two nuts, the whole mount, well, this part of the mount will probably drop forward, and then it may drop out of the car. So I'll try to hold it when I remove the second bolt. I see the mount has got a slot in it. Yeah, these are pretty loose now. Whew. Guess if I got my ratcheting wrench, that would make it go pretty quick too. Yeah, this whole thing is quite loose. It's coming right out. By hand, by finger, which is great. This is easy street now. So that's like every wrong way, or every way that didn't work, and then the way that did work to get this mount out. This is the old mount. And I will clean it up and then we'll put the new mount in. So this is the old mount. It's, you know, a little bit covered in surface rust, and you can see there's some cracking in the rubber. And oh yeah, it's totally cracked. Yeah, this is the original mount as far as I know, at 192,000 miles, and it is definitely worn out. It's cracked and too flexible. There's the original nuts, washers, and bolts. And what I got to replace it is a OEM engine mount made by Hutchinson made in France, which is they are the, and I got new nuts, or I got new bolts too. So I'm pretty sure those, yeah, the new and the old are the same length and thread, and they got the same washer. The old ones are 14mm, and the new ones are 13mm drive. So I'm going to need a different tool to get the new ones installed, different driver. And yeah, the new and the old, they're identical. Slight change, I would say. This is the old one is tapered more than the new one. Trying to see if there's any markings on the old one. It's got a part number on it. It says Volvo France 3559, and the new one says France 3559, but it's been they've taken a little grinder and ground out where it used to say Volvo. So it's clearly, as I read and as I was told, and as I can see here, this is the original mount. It's only, I think it was $30 instead of $60 for the official from the dealer part. That is basically the same part. And then I also got 2 new nuts, and these are also 18mm and have the flange, but I did not get replacement washers. Those were not in the parts diagram, so I'm going to reuse these original washers. I'm going to clean them up and then reuse them. And get on with the reinstallation. Yeah, I mean, this part I got is a little bit different in terms of the design of the metal yoke between the 2 bushings. It's flatter, it looks a little bit simpler, a little bit easier to make, probably. A little bit cheaper. But otherwise, I'm pretty confident that my replacement part is going to fit perfectly. Okay, so the new mount, I cleaned up the mounting points and so that they're not so dirty, and with a wire brush. And then you just put this in, and it goes in the same way the old one came out. This goes through there, and that goes there. And let's see. I think what I'm going to do is take one of these bolts for now and install it loosely on the rear bolt through the rear slot. So that's just a slotted, that's the slotted one, so it has a lot of flexibility. I'm just going to tighten this one up loosely so that the mount is more or less in position, but still free to move around. And then so make that loose. You don't want that one tight, I don't think. And then you want to, up on these two guys, you want to make sure that they're centered, I think, in the slot. And then take one of the original washers and oh boy, that's hard to do with one hand. Take one of the washers, got lucky, and take one of the nuts and install that one pretty loosely, and do the same thing with the other. So here I got the nut and the washer together. Spin that one on and just make sure that everything is sitting nicely. And I notice, I can see from this angle that that hole is lining up nicely. But if it were not, I would loosen these. You can probably just leave these all loose. Leave all of them loose until you get all 4 bolts in place. That's the right way to do this. And then tighten them up. Because this one in particular does not have a lot of play. Yeah. Probably my ratcheting wrenches would have been kind of useful for this, maybe. Might not be enough room in there. They got a much larger, much wider head than one of these closed-end wrenches. That one's just bottoming out now. It's still a little loose. Those ones are just bottoming out. And this guy, this last one, tighten him up a little bit. So they're all just finger tight. So at this point, I'm ready to do the torquing, and I'm pretty sure that for these 4 bolts, they get torqued to a certain amount of torquing force, and then they get tightened up a certain number of degrees. So I got to go look those numbers up and get my torque wrench.